Welcome to Real Healing with Elena. Hi, I'm Elena, a board-certified naturopathic doctor, functional medicine certified health coach, and someone who spent years doing everything right and yet still felt terrible. This podcast exists because healing is not as complicated as the wellness industry wants you to think, but it is more layered than most people are told. Every week, we go deep into root cause health, detox, drainage, mold, nervous system, supplements, mindset, spirit, the whole picture. Because your body, your mind, and your spirit are not separate problems. They're all one system, and guess what? They heal together. If you're functioning, but know you're not thriving, you're in the right place. Now, let's dive in. Hi friends, and welcome back. Today I'm continuing the conversation around perimenopause and menopause, but I'm going to refer to it as perimenopause. I feel like the conversations that are happening out there around this topic are really missing some important things, so I'm going to continue to dive in them, educating you and empowering you, because knowledge, nobody can take that away from you. So as you know, people can have completely different experiences through this transition. You can either feel like you're sailing through it, or feel like your body is totally falling apart. And that's what I hope to educate you on and dive you in, what the difference is. And I feel like a huge part of what makes that difference is things that nobody are talking about. And today I'm going to dive into the relationship between your gut and your hormones. And honestly, if you're not even at perimenopause yet, this is for you so you can prevent having symptoms in the future. So when I say gut and your hormones, I'm not talking about gut health in a general way. I'm talking about a very specific, very mechanistic cycle where a broken gut actively breaks down your hormones and a declining hormones actively break down your gut, each one making the other worse. Round and round you go. That cycle is why nothing fully resolves. Not the hormone replacement therapy, not the supplements, not the protocols, not the new diet or the new exercise plan, because none of those things are actually addressing what is driving this cycle. And that is what this episode is all about. I'm going to walk you through exactly how this hormone gut cycle works and the sequence that actually breaks it, because you can. The body is amazing. So if you don't know me, my name is Elena. I'm a naturopathic doctor, a functional medicine certified health coach, and a drainage and detox specialist in body, mind, and spirit. I also want you to know that there is a version of this transition, this perimenopause, menopause transition, where the gut is working, where hormones are cycling properly, and the symptoms that most women just accept as inevitable simply don't exist. They're not there. That version is real. I know because I'm living it. Most of my clients are either living it or working towards it if they're not already there. And this episode is how you can get there too. Now, for the men watching, everything I'm about to share about the gut-estrogen relationship applies to you too. Men produce estrogen and develop estrogen dominance through the exact same mechanisms, so stay with me. And a quick note, I have a full episode on the hormone life cycle, all 4 stages, and why each one matters. I'll put the link to that in the description below if you want to start there. But everything you need for today, I will walk you through right here. All right, so let's dive in. Let me set the stage for where we are going. The hormone cycle has 4 stages. Again, if you want to go deeper, that's in the last episode, but here you go. We have production. Then the hormones go into circulation and do their job. Once they're done, they break down, and once they're broken down, they have to eliminate. And based on elimination, they go back and signal production. At each stage, when that stage breaks down, they're produced different symptoms. But there is one stage that creates more dysfunction than any other stage. And I'll want to explain why before we go farther. Because I think once you see this, everything else is going to start to click and make sense. So stage 4 is elimination. The stage where processed hormones actually leave the body. And here is why it matters more than the other stages. The first 3 stages are about making and moving hormones. And again, I'm talking those sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. Production can have a slow day. Circulation can be imperfect. But elimination has to happen every single day continuously. Because if the exit doors back up, everything upstream backs up with it. And here's something critical that most people never even think about. The body needs these hormones to actually exit the body because the hypothalamus is watching. It is the command center sitting at the top of the whole hormone system, sending signals down to the pituitary gland, which then signals the ovaries, the adrenals, the thyroid, the testes for men. And then those glands produce the hormones. But here's the thing. The hypothalamus only knows to adjust those signals when the cycle, that hormone life cycle, completes. When the hormones exit properly, the hypothalamus gets the signal that everything is working and keeps regulating. When hormones cannot exit, when they begin recirculating instead of clearing when they should have cleared, the hypothalamus gets confused signals and the whole feedback loop breaks down. This feedback loop is happening every single second of every single day. That is why backed up elimination does not just stall the cycle, it dismantles it from the bottom up. What is actually happening in your gut, before I go farther, I want to take a moment to walk through what is actually happening in your gut. Because I think a lot of people hear gut and think stomach, and that is not what I am talking about. Your gut is your entire intestinal system. The small intestines, large intestines, the colon, the whole pipe. Here's how it is supposed to work, because when you understand how it's supposed to work, then it makes more sense when I talk about breaking it down. You understand where the issue is. So when it's working properly, when you eat, digestion actually begins in your mouth. When you chew your food, you create saliva. Your body starts activating digestive enzymes in the body, which is why chewing slowly matters than most people realize. The food then moves into your stomach, where stomach acid and digestive enzymes continue breaking it down further into forms that your body can actually use. After that is done, then it drops into the small intestines. In the small intestines, your body absorbs the nutrients that it needs, but only the small ones that are properly broken down. The gut lining is made up of these incredibly tight little junctions. It should look like this, going along the lining of your gut. They are microscopic connections between the cells of your gut wall. They are designed to allow tiny little micronutrients through and nothing else. The large particles, the waste, the toxins, they should keep passing by. They should keep on moving. Now through the small intestines, then into the large intestines, and by the time you reach the large intestines, what remains should only be waste, ready to exit as a bowel movement. And here is something most people have never been told about constipation. If waste sits in the large intestines for too long, now your body starts reabsorbing that waste, including the water in it, which is why constipated stools get harder and larger. Your body is literally pulling back what was supposed to excrete. This includes hormones, including the processed hormone metabolites, including toxins, including everything that was on its way out, your body is now reabsorbing. That is stage 4 failure at its most basic level. When the gut lining breaks down, so when these tight junctions break down, the cascade, now here is where it gets serious, because a backed up stage 4 does not just stall the cycle, it actively destroys it. When those tight junctions in the gut lining, when they start to loosen, they start to separate and gap, these large particles that were never supposed to cross, remember they were supposed to go right on by, well now there's gaps in here. They can actually start to seep through, and they start to seep through these gaps. This is called leaky gut. And now hormones that were processed and packaged for removal get reabsorbed back into the bloodstream because they're seeping through these gaps. It goes into the bloodstream. Toxins that should have left the body make their way through these gaps and come back in. Waste that was on its way out now re-enters into blood circulation because it goes in through these gaps. And now the body is carrying more than it ever was before. More circulating estrogen it never cleared and was supposed to. More toxins re-entering from a gut that can no longer filter it. more inflammatory compounds flooding our bloodstream. The immune system responds. Inflammation fires, not occasionally, but constantly and systematically. And that chronic systemic inflammation creates a pathogenic environment in the gut. The beneficial bacteria that were protecting the gut lining, that were producing the compounds that protect your immune system, your neurotransmitters, your bones, they cannot survive in this toxic environment. Opportunistic pathogens start to move in and take over. Bad bacteria, yeast, parasites. The lining then degrades further. You absorb less nutrients because it's going to these bad guys. More leaks leak through. The gap opens and more can get through. More reabsorption, more inflammation. The door to autoimmune disease opens wider with every cycle. And here's the part that brings it all the way back to stage 1, that chronic inflammatory environment, that constant toxic recirculation. Guess what? It poisons the mitochondria. The same mitochondria that stage 1, the production stage of hormone, depends on to produce hormones itself in the first place. And now the hypothalamus is not even getting clear signals to regulate properly. So stage 4 failure does not just cause symptoms at stage 4. Over time, it dismantles stage 1. The body loses its ability to make hormones properly, not because of age, but because the foundation that hormone production depends on has been systemically destroyed. The mitochondria don't have the energy. You haven't absorbed the cofactors, whether through your own diet or through supplements. That's why stage 4 is the bottleneck. That is why everything I do starts with opening the exit doors. And that is why the gut, the place where stage 4 either works or catastrophically fails, is what this entire episode is about. Now here on the flip side, when stage 4 is working, because it can work, when the gut is eliminating properly, when the lining is intact, when those junctions are tight, hormones and toxins are actually leaving that are supposed to leave. The whole cascade reverses. Inflammation comes down. The microbiome stabilizes. The mitochondria recover. The hypothalamus gets clear signals. The whole cycle restores from the bottom up. Stage 4 backwards. So I want to ask you a question. Does any of this sound familiar? Have you tried a gut healing protocol? Probiotics, fermented foods like sauerkraut or kefir, bone broth, even gut supplements. And maybe you either felt better for a little while, but then slipped back. That was definitely me. Or also like me, tried eating these fermented foods and ended up with gas, bloating, and discomfort so bad that you had to stop. Or tried probiotics and felt worse. Y'all, these are not failure. That is not those things not working, because they are very good for your body. That is your body telling you the environment has not been cleared yet. There is a huge amount of pathogenic activity in there, and adding the good stuff into that environment just feeds the wrong things first, which is why you feel bad or worse. So don't ignore them and say those things don't work. This is a huge sign, your body telling you we got more work to do. So before I show you exactly what a broken gut does to your hormones, I need to establish something important because it changes how you understand the solution. A broken gut is not just a gut problem. A toxic burden, heavy metals, mold, radiation, environmental and industrial chemicals, toxins, pathogenic overgrowth from bacteria, viruses, parasites, all of that degrades the gut. It disrupts the bacterial balance. It damages the lining. It creates the leaky gut that drives every symptom we're going to talk about today. But here is the other direction. A broken, leaky gut increases toxicity because a healthy gut filters. When those tight junctions break down, as we discuss, toxins that should have been removed pass back into the bloodstream, which burdens the liver more, which slows hormone clearance further, which degrades the gut further. Toxic burden breaks down the gut. Broken gut increases toxic burden, each one making the other worse. Round and round you go. Which came first, the toxic burden or the leaky gut? The answer is both. And frankly, it doesn't matter which came first because both have to be addressed. You could have been born into a body already carrying a toxic load, and that load over time degrades the gut. Or you could have started with a compromised gut that increased your toxic burden. Either way, you end up with both, and you cannot address one without addressing the other. This is where most approaches fail. My own journey started with gut healing back in 2009. I was going after candida and yeast, and I cannot tell you how many protocols I tried, doing it, getting progress, having to go again, and repeat until I finally figured out this root piece. Because my gut just kept degrading, because I kept trying to paint the wall without cleaning it first. Imagine just trying to paint over a moldy wall. That fresh paint might look good, but that mold is going to come through and create problems. You wouldn't try to repaint a wall that was still wet and moldy. You clean it first. You get rid of the mold. You remove the waste. You remove what was causing the damage. Then you repair the wall. Then you paint the wall. The gut works the exact same way. If the toxic burden, the heavy metals, the mold, the pathogens, think of that like the mold on the wall. If it has not been addressed, probiotics and gut healing protocols are trying to rebuild in an environment that is still actively breaking things down. They can't hold. Not because they're wrong, but because the step before them was skipped. This is why what I do with my clients always starts in the same place, clearing. Drainage open first, always, then clear the toxic burden, including the pathogens that follow it. That process simultaneously frees the mitochondria. And only once the terrain is clean, then do we move on to sealing it, healing the gut and sealing it. Clear, seal, maintain. In that order, always. Otherwise, you're chasing your tail. Understanding the sequence changes everything. It's changed everything for me, my clients as well. The answer is not more supplements or a different gut protocol. It's addressing what the gut is living in, clean the environment, then rebuild. Your gut has an extraordinary capacity to heal. Your body has an extraordinary capacity to heal, but only when you give it the conditions to do so. Okay, so does any of this sound familiar? Have you ever been told that your estrogen is low and been offered hormone replacement therapy, but something in you felt like that was not the whole answer? Well, if that's the case, you are right. Your estrogen may not be low only because you stopped making it with age through perimenopause or menopause. It may be low because your gut stopped recycling it. Now that's a completely different problem, and it has a completely different solution. So I want to share with you the exact chain of events, because this is the piece that reframes everything, and it starts not with the estrobolome, but one step before it. And if you don't know what the estrobolome is, because I didn't know before I dove into all this, I'll share with you in a minute. But first, we're going to talk about the bacterial balance shifts that happen in the body when we go through perimenopause, because it's dramatic. When estrogen starts to decline in perimenopause and menopause, one of the first things that happens inside the gut is a crash in Lactobacillus populations. It's a good gut bacteria that I feel like people hear about often in yogurt and things like that. You've probably heard of it, as I mentioned, but its role is far bigger than most people realize. Lactobacillus is responsible for three critical things. It's responsible for gut lining integrity, estrogen recycling through the estrobolome, and, as we will cover in a future episode, vaginal health. It is one of the most important protective families of bacteria in the body. Lactobacillus can drop by over 50% in menopause. Over 50%. That is not a subtle shift. That is a fundamental collapse in the ecosystem that was protecting you. And as Lactobacillus declines, two things happen simultaneously. First, the compounds that protect your gut lining disappear. Lactobacillus and other beneficial bacteria produce something called short-chain fatty acids, butyrate, acetate, and propionate. These are not just byproducts, they are the fuel source for the cells lining your gut wall. Remember those tight junctions? They regulate inflammation. They maintain the integrity of those tight junctions we talked about. When Lactobacillus crashes, short-chain fatty acid production crashes with it. The gut lining loses its fuel, its energy to do its job. Those tight junctions begin to loosen. Those gaps open. Leaky gut markers are 2 times higher in menopausal women versus premenopausal women. 2 times higher. That's not a slight elevated, it's double. That is a direct consequence of a lactobacillus crash in the gut lining. Okay, so second, as beneficial bacteria decline, opportunistic pathogens move in to fill the space. Candida, E. coli, streptococcus, parasites, etc. They thrive in the environment left behind when the protective bacteria are gone. More inflammation, more dysbiosis, more gut lining breakdown, more dysregulation. The downward spiral accelerates. Now, the estrobolome. Here is where the estrobolome enters the picture. And y'all, I just love this word, and I want you to learn it. Estrobolome. I think of like a piece in the orchestra, an instrument, and it really is a huge instrument in our body. The estrobolome is the collection of gut microbes specifically responsible for recycling estrogen. And lactobacillus is a key part of that workforce. So when lactobacillus crashes, the estrobolome loses its primary workers. And we've talked about estrogen leaving, but some estrogen is intended to be recycled. It is how our body was made. Here's how the recycling process is supposed to work. Your ovaries produce estrogen. It does its job in the body. The liver processes it and packages up after the job is done. Bile carries that package into the gut, and in a healthy gut, the estrobolome takes a portion of that used estrogen, recycles it, and sends some of it back into circulation. This is normal. This is good. This is how the body maintains appropriate estrogen levels, even as production naturally declines with perimenopause and menopause. But in a damaged, dysbiotic gut, where lactobacillus has crashed, the estrobolome is compromised, fewer estrogen recycling bacteria, less recycling happening. Low estrobolome activity equals up to 30% lower estrogen availability. So you may not be losing estrogen only because of perimenopause. You may be losing estrogen because your gut can no longer recycle and maintain it the way that it's supposed to. That is a completely different problem, and it has a completely different solution. Deficiency and dominance from the same broken system. And here is where it gets even more interesting and honestly a little bit ironic. The same broken gut that leads to estrogen deficiency can also lead to estrogen dominance. An inflamed gut with too much beta-glucuronidase activity, which is an enzyme that increases when bad bacteria dominate and lactobacillus is gone, it causes estrogen that should be eliminated to get reabsorbed instead. So the liver did its job, the bile did its job, and then the gut undid all of it. Estrogen that had been packed for removal gets unwrapped and sent back into circulation. So on one hand, the gut is failing to recycle the estrogen you need, and on the other hand, it's holding on to estrogen that should be leaving, both at the same time in the same broken system. Gallbladder pain, anxiety, weight that won't move, mood swings, heavy or irregular periods, breast tenderness, hot flashes. These are all signs and symptoms of estrogen dominance. And the driver is not your ovaries. It is your gut, it is your liver, it is your drainage. This is why adding estrogen to a body that cannot clear it, this is why adding estrogen to a body that can't clear it can make things worse. And this is why when you support the gut and open drainage pathways, when you give estrogen somewhere to go, symptoms start to resolve without changing anything about the hormones themselves. A healthy estrobolome that is supported by thriving lactobacillus populations means your body is managing its own estrogen levels, recycling what it needs, clearing what it does not. Women who restore their gut microbiome after doing the foundational clearing work often find their hormone picture is shifting without ever touching a single hormone. That is not magic. That is the system working the way it was always designed to. So does this sound familiar? Brain fog that feels like it lives in your whole body, not just your head? Depression or anxiety that came out of nowhere and doesn't fully respond to anything you try? joint pain, that morning stiffness, feeling a systemic inflammation you can't explain. These are not just hormone symptoms. These are gut symptoms. This is what happens when a broken gut starts talking to your whole body through the bloodstream. I want to show you how far this goes because it does not stay in the gut. It goes everywhere. So I want to talk about LPS, lipopolysaccharides. When the gut lining breaks down, and in menopausal women, this is happening at double the rate of premenopausal women, something very specific enters the bloodstream. LPS, lipopolysaccharide. It is a fragment of bacterial cell walls that normally lives inside the gut. It should be there. When the gut lining is intact, those junctions are tight, LPS stays where it belongs, inside the gut. But when the gut gets leaky, when those junctions get loose, when the gut degrades, LPS now passes through those walls and into the bloodstream. And every single time it does, the immune system treats it like a foreign invader. Cytokines release, inflammation spreads systemically every single time. LPS in the bloodstream drives systemic inflammation, cognitive decline, autoimmune conditions, and accelerated aging. This is not a gut problem anymore. This is a whole body problem that started with a gut problem. Frankly, started with a toxic problem or chicken and the egg, toxicity or gut. They feed each other. Leaky gut becomes leaky brain. The blood-brain barrier has the same structure as the gut lining, same tight junctions, same vulnerabilities. When one breaks down, the other tends to follow. That's the brain fog, the mood shifts, the anxiety that lives in your body, not just hormone symptoms, inflammation symptoms. And did you know that 60% of serotonin, which makes you feel good, the neurotransmitter that feels good, is produced in the gut, not the brain? When the microbiome is dysbiotic or leaky, serotonin production is compromised. The anxiety, the mood crashes, the poor sleep that everyone attributes to perimenopause has a very direct physical explanation that has nothing to do with adding progesterone. Now, leaky gut also becomes leaky bones. The gut microbiome directly regulates bone density through the metabolites it produces. Certain gut bacteria produce compounds that inhibit bone resorption and promote bone formation. Now, when dysbiosis sets in, dysregulated gut, degraded gut, leaky gut, those protective compounds that were protecting our bones, they disappear. Women can lose up to 20% of bone density in the first 5 to 7 years after menopause. A degraded gut accelerates that loss. This is why so many women end up with osteoporosis and why calcium supplements alone rarely solve the problem. The gut has to be restored first because the gut is what was protecting those bones. So leaky gut equals leaky brain, equals leaky bones. They're all connected, all from the same broken system, all addressable at the root. Yes, I said it, addressable. They can all be reversed. When the gut heals, when the lining repairs, those junctions get tight again. When lactobacillus repopulates, when LPS stops flooding the bloodstream and stays within the gut, the brain fog lifts, the mood stabilizes, the bones get what they need, serotonin production restores. The body that felt like it was falling apart starts to come back online. I've lived this. My clients have lived this. My clients are living this. And guess what? It's available to you. So I want to address hormone replacement therapy directly because it always comes up in this conversation. And I want to speak to everyone here, whether you're already on hormone therapy, whether you're considering it, or whether you have no interest in it at all, because this matters for all three groups. First, I'm not anti-hormone replacement therapy. I believe that it may have a time and a place for some people. I have used it myself in the past, although it was not for me. I have clients who have benefited from it, and I have clients who have seriously struggled with it. And I want to acknowledge what the research does get right. Estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone do carry real protective benefits for bone density, for cardiovascular health, for cognitive protection. That is real and it matters. But here is what almost nobody is saying alongside that research, and this drives me crazy. I want it to be heard. And this is where I have a lot of passion. You cannot out-hormone a sick gut. You cannot out-hormone a dirty body. If the estrobolome is broken, if the gut lining is compromised, if drainage is blocked, hormone therapy is working in a system that cannot metabolize or clear what you are adding. And if beta-glucuronidase activity is high, you may be reabsorbing the hormones you are adding on top of the ones that you're already recirculating. And here is something worth understanding about how dynamic hormones actually are. Progesterone alone can shift 80% within 90 minutes. Not throughout a cycle, your 28, 29, whatever cycle, within 90 minutes. And this is because hormones operate on a feedback loop. It starts with the hypothalamus, as I mentioned earlier, the command center, which sends signals to the pituitary, which sends signals to the ovaries, adrenals, thyroid, testes for men. Then those produce hormones. Those hormones feed back to the hypothalamus, and the cycle continues every second of every day. When you adjust one hormone, the hypothalamus responds, and it adjusts all the other hormones. Estrogen shifts, progesterone responds. Progesterone shifts, and the thyroid feels it. You address the adrenals, and everything else moves. It is all one interconnected system. You can't mess with one without messing with the others. This is why people find themselves constantly retesting and adjusting. The target keeps moving in a system that has never been given the foundation it needs to stabilize. So I want you to picture something. Imagine that there is a stream running underneath your health. That stream is supposed to flow clear and clean, nicely and smoothly. But over time, because of toxic burden, gut degradation, blocked drainage, that stream has become leaky. Now it's flowing over its banks into the ground in all directions, creating dysfunction everywhere it seeps. Now imagine that your hormones, particularly estrogen and progesterone, have been sitting on top of that stream. They've been acting like a buffer covering the leaks. They've been compensating for the dysfunction going on underneath, protecting you from the worst of it. And then perimenopause arrives, and that hormone buffer starts to thin. And guess what? As it thins, now we start to see that leaky stream that has been leaky all along, or slowly getting more leaky. Now it's being revealed as those hormones, that buffer gets thinner and thinner. All the dysfunction that was quietly building, quietly happening underneath that buffer is now impossible to ignore. The symptoms show up. The body says, I cannot hide this anymore. So you can put hormone therapy back on top of that stream as a new buffer, and yes, it will be protective. It will help. For some people, it's the right choice while they work on this underlying issue, this leaky stream happening. But if you don't fix that leaky stream underneath, that dysfunction keeps building. It keeps getting worse. It keeps growing. The gut keeps degrading. The toxic burden keeps accumulating. The mitochondria keep struggling. Heart disease, autoimmune conditions, accelerated aging. All of this keeps compounding underneath that buffer. Here's the reframe I want you to take from this episode, regardless of where you stand on hormone replacement therapy or not. Our hormones are supposed to decline. That is natural. That is by design. We are not supposed to have the same hormones at 80 that we had at 20. In a body that has a clean and clear foundation, clear drainage, a sealed gut, a low toxic burden, can function beautifully with declining hormones, just as our ancestors did. It's how our body was designed. But a body that has a leaky foundation, that has been carrying a heavy toxic burden with a degraded gut and blocked drainage, that body struggles when the hormone buffer thins. Not because the hormones are declining, but because the foundation was already broken, and now that hormone decline has revealed what was already going on. My position clearly stated, if you're using hormone therapy, please also address the foundation, the gut, the drainage, the liver, the toxic burden, the terrain that hormones have to work in. If hormone replacement therapy is part of your path, I hope it is a stepping stone and not your destination. Use it to carry you through while you fix what was revealed underneath, that leaky stream. And then you may find you may need far less or maybe none at all. And if you're not on hormone replacement therapy and have no interest in it, this is exactly why addressing the gut and the foundation matters so much. because you are asking your body to sail through this transition with a declining buffer. The cleaner the foundation, the smoother the transition. This is what I see consistently with clients who do the foundational work. A body that has cleared the terrain, sealed the gut, responds better to hormone therapy when it is needed, and needs far less of it. And frankly, most of my clients don't need it at all. Many find their hormone picture shifting on its own without adding anything at all. That is the difference between managing and healing. So I want to share with you a real story, a client. I'm not going to give any information, but I feel like this can explain better than any research study ever could. I had a client that came to me in a very difficult place. She had severe body anxiety, not in her head, but in her body. A physiological experience she described as panic attacks that she couldn't turn off. She had gallbladder pain, digestive disruption that had been building for months, breakouts, exhaustion, cycles getting more irregular every single month. She had been to multiple providers. They had her on about 75 supplements that were on her counter, all recommended and all well-intended. That's a whole nother topic. That's way too many. It's way too much for a system that cannot even break down what it had. She had been prescribed progesterone, and then an estrogen patch, and then estrogen cream. After every single one, her symptoms got worse. And she said something to me in our very first session that I've never forgotten. She said, "Everybody is throwing things at me to calm the symptoms, but nobody is addressing the root. I know what I really need to do is focusing on the detox pathways in the liver, but nobody is doing that, and I just don't know how." She already knew. When I assessed her using muscle testing, which is how I evaluate the body's own intelligence and its priorities, her drainage pathways scored 1 out of 10, essentially blocked. 10 being that they are 100% open and functioning, 1 being that they're functioning at 10% or less. So her body's attempt to detoxify scored 10 out of 10. Her detoxification was 10 out of 10, So it was working. Her body was desperately trying to move things out, but it had nowhere to go. It couldn't get out. Her hormone function scored 1 out of 10, not because she needed more hormones, but because her system was so burdened, it could not regulate the hormones she already had. Now think about what was happening. Her gut was degraded. Her drainage was blocked. Her liver was backed up. Estrogen was not clearing, and provider after provider was adding more estrogen into a body that could not clear the estrogen it already had, adding more supplements to a system that could not even break down the ones it had. Her body was not rejecting the hormones. Her body was saying, the exit doors are closed. Stop putting more in until something can get out. So we started with one thing, the clearing piece. Drainage first. We opened the pathways, supported the liver and the kidneys. We supported mitochondria so the cells had energy to do their job. And guess what? 6 days later, not 6 weeks, not 6 months, but 6 days, she had already scheduled an abdominal scan for that gallbladder pain. And she decided to go to it even though the pain was already gone. And guess what? They could not find anything. Y'all, I'm talking 6 days. The gallbladder was not a gallbladder problem. It was a drainage problem. It was an estrogen clearance problem. In 6 days of simply opening the exit doors and giving the cells energy to do their job, the pain had been building for months, stopped. It went away. And I want to be clear, 6 days was the beginning, not the end. We continue to work together. The clearing continues. And then we move into sealing the gut, rebuilding the gut lining, restoring the microbiome, letting the estrobolome do its job in a clean environment. And then we'll move into maintaining, keeping that terrain clean so that our body can eventually do all of this on its own. That's always the goal, a body that regulates itself the way it was designed to. God designed something miraculous. It works beautifully when we remove what is blocking it and give it the environment to thrive. And guess what? It will thrive. Our bodies are meant to, they're designed to, and they will. This is what is possible, not years from now, not after a perfect protocol. 6 days of working with the body's own intelligence in the order that your own body called out for, and a symptom that had been building for months was gone. This is not an outlier. This is what happens when you stop fighting the body and start supporting it in the right order, in the right way. Okay, so here is the sequence. 3 phases in this order always, because I'm always trying to educate you and I want to empower you, so I'm giving this to you. Do what you want with it. Phase 1, clear. You cannot heal what you have not cleaned. Before the gut can ever begin rebuilding, the environment it is living in has to be addressed. Drainage first. Get the exit doors open. The gut has to be moving every single day. A daily bowel movement is a non-negotiable. If things are not moving and not moving out, then nothing is clearing and we come to a full stop. Bile must be flowing. Warm lemon water first thing in the morning before coffee. You can add a pinch of salt and bitters if you have them. Adequate healthy fats support bile production. This is simple and free. This will support that lemon water, support your liver and your bile. Now lymph moving. Your lymphatic system has no pump. It moves when you move. 20 to 30 minutes of movement every day. It doesn't have to be intense or all at once. Walking, squats, yoga, rebounding. Just bounce up and down on the floor in the kitchen while you're cooking dinner. Consistent. Just doing it every day when you can. That's what matters. Kidney support. Half your body weight in ounces of clean filtered water, ideally distilled. More if you're sweating or exercising heavily. Then get into clearing work, removing the toxic burden that degraded the gut in the first place, the heavy metals, the mold, the environmental toxins and chemicals, the pathogenic overgrowth, the parasites. This is the work that simultaneously frees the mitochondria, because the toxic burden was what was poisoning the mitochondria, preventing them from working in the first place. Clearing the terrain and restoring cellular energy happens together. This phase takes time. Months, depending on how long the body has been carrying this load. It could be 4 months, 6 months, 9 months. It cannot be rushed, and it has to come before anything else. This is the foundational work I do with every single client before we ever touch gut healing, before we touch hormones. We clear, because a body that is clear can actually heal. A body still carrying its full load cannot. It cannot heal, not possible. Okay, so phase 2, after you've cleared, now we've got to seal. We're talking about the gut now. Once the terrain is clear, now the gut can actually begin rebuilding. Now the sealing protocol works, because you're no longer trying to repair something that is still living in a toxic environment. And something worth knowing, as you clear, those tight junctions actually start healing on their own. The body is always moving towards repair when you remove the obstacles. The sealing phase just completes and accelerates that. A quality probiotic with Lactobacillus strains, repopulating the beneficial bacteria responsible for the gut lining integrity, responsible for estrogen recycling, and keeping opportunistic pathogens out. Fermented foods, when your gut can tolerate them, sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, and you'll know when it can. When the pathogens are clearing out, fermented foods stop causing gas and bloating and start actually feeling good. Eating diverse plants and fiber, 25 to 30 grams daily. Eat the rainbow. The estrobolome bacteria feed on fiber. Without it, they starve. Okay, taking a digestive enzyme with every meal. I love this. A gut that has been compromised is not breaking down food efficiently on its own. So a quality digestive enzyme takes that burden off of your gut while it's healing and ensures the nutrients are actually being absorbed, including the cofactors that your hormone cycle needs to make the hormones in the first place. I have used and highly recommend transformation enzymes for a year. It's the most bioavailable product that I have found. Code CLRW for Clean Life Real World gets you 10% off of every order. I'll put the link in the description. And then protect your 12 to 13 hour window overnight between your last meal and your first meal. This is when the gut repairs itself at night, but only if you give it space to do that. So no snacking after dinner. The gut cannot repair and digest at the same time. And one important note, if you start probiotics or fermented foods and feel worse, that is information for you. That is not failure. It likely means that there is still a pathogenic issue that needs to be cleared before you can seed the good bacteria. Your body is telling you that it needs the clearing step first or needs more clearing before you can progress in healing. This is a whole episode of its own, and it's exactly where I come in. So I help people with this. Okay, so phase 3, if we've cleared and then we have sealed the gut, now we need to maintain. Once we've cleared and sealed, we want to keep it that way. We want to reduce what is coming in, reducing your chemical exposure in personal care products, cookware, food packaging. All of these things add up quietly. Reduce alcohol. I didn't say cut it, just reduce it, as it directly competes with the liver estrogen clearance. Eat clean foods, diverse foods, real food as a baseline. If it flies in the sky, if it runs on the ground, if you can pick it from the tree, if it swims in the ocean, that is real food. Eat it. And quarterly drainage support protocol, a parasite cleanse to keep the terrain clean so that the gut does not degrade again and the hormone cycle can stay complete. This is not white knuckling forever. It is simply keeping the conditions right for the body to keep doing what it was designed to do in this toxic world. When the sequence is complete, when you are clear, sealed, and maintaining, the hormone cycle closes the way that it was designed to. The estrobolome does its job. The liver clears. Estrogen recirculates at the right level and eliminates at the right level. Symptoms ease, not because you added something, but because the system is finally completing its full cycle. That is what the body was always trying to do. You just now gave it the conditions to do it. So I want to leave you with something. Your body has been doing everything it can to complete the cycle. Every symptom is not a failure. It's communication. Symptoms are the only way your body has to communicate with you. So listen, your gut is pointing at a stage that needs support. Your hormones are reflecting what the system they live in is able to do. And now you understand the system. You know the estrobolome. You know why the chicken and the egg both have to be addressed. You know why you can't seal before you clear. You know the sequence. That knowledge is yours. Take it and use it. Start with the basics. Move your body for your lymph. Warm lemon water in the morning for bile and liver. A daily bowel movement is a non-negotiable. Reduce the toxin exposure that's coming in. These things will start moving the needle. And if you want to shorten that path significantly, if you want someone to look at your specific issues, your situation, and assess what your body actually needs in what order, and walk you through the clearing and sealing with a personalized protocol built for you, that's what I'm for. That's what a consultation with me gives you. A decade of my own healing, years of clinical work, the sequence that actually works, compressed into a clear path built specifically for you. In the next episode, we're going to dive deeper into the mental, emotional, and spiritual dimensions of this transition, because I feel like that is a huge part of perimenopause that definitely gets lost in this society. Because body, mind, and spirit is work the deepest healing happens. We have to address all of it, and I feel like it's not getting addressed. So subscribe to make sure that you don't miss anything. I'm going to continue diving deeper into perimenopause and menopause and hormones and all of this stuff. I just want to say thank you so much for being here. I hope this helped you. I hope this empowered you and gave you something new that you can move forward and do something with. Please share this video or this episode with someone who needs it. Leave a comment. I love hearing from you. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll get back to you. And have a very blessed day. Thanks for spending this time with me today. I truly appreciate it. And if this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone else who might need to hear it. That's how the message reaches those that it's meant for. And if what we talked about today got you thinking about what might actually be going on in your own body, I made something for you. It's a free training called Stop Managing Symptoms, Start Living. And it's the most complete explanation of my work that I have ever put together. I go over why chronic symptoms persist even when you seem to be doing everything right, what might be missing in other approaches, and what becomes possible when your body finally has the right conditions to heal. The link is in the show notes below. Go watch it. I think you'll really like it, and it'll change how you see what's been going on. Don't forget, subscribe wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode, and I'll see you on the next one. In the meantime, take care of yourself. You deserve it, and you are absolutely worth it. Have a blessed day.